Hey everyone, this is Nick. Welcome back. In this video series, we're building an automated Azure data pipeline from scratch. Just to quickly go over what the pipeline does again, is it uploads a local messy CSV file into an Azure-like data storage account, which then launches a Data Factory pipeline via an event trigger, which then sends that raw data to Databricks to be cleaned with a Python script to clean and transform it. Then that clean data then gets loaded into a new Azure Data Lake storage folder. Then that new data is then loaded into an Azure SQL Database. In this particular video, we're going to actually create the Data Factory, create the Azure SQL Database so we can load the data in there, and then we're going to link the Databricks notebook, the Azure Data Lake storage account, and the Azure SQL Database into Data Factory so we can set up the pipeline steps in the next video. So let's get started. So if you're unfamiliar with what Data Factory is, it's a pipeline building and execution tool in Microsoft. So you can build different pipeline steps. You can do so, for instance, copy data from one source to another. It's great for ETL or ELT workflows. You can do a lot of different steps, and it's a really great tool to help you set up your pipeline. So let's get started. So we're on our Azure homepage here, and to create a data factory provision a data factory, we can go to create a resource here, and you type in data factory. Okay. And you hit this little create button here, and then again, you can pick any kind of resource group you want. I'll do this one, but again, you can create a new resource group if you wanted to. And keep the region the same, unless you wanted to go to the one that's closer. This, you have to create a data factory name, so data factory. Okay, you can create it kind of whatever you want to, as long as it works. I'm going to do this little check mark here. And the version, you want to make sure it's on V2. That's the most current version. And then you want to click on this Git configuration. And you can actually configure Git to your data factory. We're not going to do that in this video, but just know that it's something you can do. So all you're going to do is just click on this little box to configure it later. You can always do that. Then you're going to hit on review and create, and then create. Then it'll create the data factory. I've already created one, so I won't do that here, but you can just click this button here. Now, once it's finished, you can search for it in the name, in your data factory name. You can go to your resource groups or all resources and click on your data factory. And then you'll look at something like this. And to get into Data Factory, you're going to hit this Author and Monitor tab. Okay, and it's going to load it in here for us. This is going to be your home page. And so this shows you a couple different setups. So we can create a pipeline, we can create a data flow, which that just means you can visually transform data without any code. So for instance, you can set up data flows where it will join different data sources together. You can use aggregates, you can export data, different things you can do without writing any code or minimal code. Here, configure SSIS. Again, that SQL Server integration services you can set up there. For our place, we're just going to go to create a pipeline here. Just going to click on this. And if you see, I already created a pipeline for us called Pipeline 1. And if you go on the right side here, we can change this so we can say a new pipeline test or whatever you want to and create that. Now, this is your design area. We're actually going to pull different sources to see how we want to build those pipeline steps. So the first thing we want to do now is, what do we want to do with our pipeline, right? What we know is, remember, if you saw in the previous video, we have a notebook here from Databricks, which pulls in data from our data lake storage account, right, the raw data, and then we wrote a Python script to clean it. And then what we want to do, and if you look at our steps here, you want to take that notebook, that's clean notebook, load it back into the data lake storage folder, and then load it into an Azure SQL Database. Okay, so what you want to do is the first step is to bring in that notebook. So there's different activities you can click on here, but if you click on this little arrow here, you can copy data from one source to another. You can do a data flow. You can do functions. There's a lot of things you can do in Data Factory. What we're concerned about is this Databricks. So you can click this little arrow here and left click on this notebook and then drag it into anywhere in this design area here. That's going to drag this notebook. You can name this whatever you want. So Databricks, let's call it Databricks 1. And then it'll change it up here. And then when you see this red 1, it means you have to actually do something. And again, here you can create a description for it if you wanted to. But here, we're just going to click on this Azure Databricks. And then if you see, it says Databricks Linked Service. And what this means is that we need to link Databricks, our Databricks account, to Data Factory. Because right now we're just saying, hey, we want to do something with the Databricks notebook, but Data Factory has no idea what notebook, what Databricks account we want to do it on. It has no idea. So we want to link it. That's called this link service. So I already created one here, but we'll go to a new one right here. So click this new button. All right, we can call this Azure Databricks 24, let's say. You can name this whatever you want. You can do from Azure subscription, and then in the subscription, you want to click this down arrow here, and then click on your subscription number, and then click on the data workspace here. So again, and it should bring in your Databricks workspace normally, but if not, make sure you put that in there. And then there's two ways to link to Data Factory and Databricks. The first one is with an access token, and what an access token is, it's actually a something you create in Databricks that allows you to, it's kind of like it grants permission and authenticates the user to be able to use and sync up to Databricks. So we need to put this access token in here and generate the access token to allow Data Factory to connect with Databricks. Because what it's saying in essence is, it sends Databricks this access token, and Databricks goes, okay, that token looks correct. You can now use and configure or do whatever you need to do and link to it. So another option is an Azure Key Vault. So this is where you can actually link that Azure Key Vault here, and you can put in that secret name if you saw in the previous videos, where you can set up a one for Databricks or Data Factory, and then you can finish that there. We're going to show the access token because it's pretty easy and simple to set up. So to do the access token, all you're going to do is go back to any notebook or any place in Databricks. You're going to click in this top right corner under this little person image here. You're going to click on User Settings. And now this is actually to generate a new token, right? That access token. So we're going to click on this new token. And what's it for? Let's just call it New Data Factory Creation. Okay, so this is for our Data Factory. And you can change the lifetime days, so how long until this expires. So 30 days, 30 days, we can keep it at 90 days, whatever you want to do. And you're going to hit Generate. And then you want to make sure you copy this, because once you get off this screen, it's not going to be there anymore. You won't be able to see it. See, it cuts off here. So once you do that, hit Done. And then what this does is this is saying, okay, this token, this access token, can be used by any source you want to, but we're going to get a Data Factory here. And we can also put when it's going to expire. So if you have other people that want to access your Databricks stuff or other data sources or anything like that, you can manage all their authentications here, right? And see the expiration dates, that's just kind of one way to do it. All right, so we'll go back into Databricks, and now we're going to copy and paste Control-V, that access token. And now it's going to say cluster version. And what does this mean? And now, important, when you go to this cluster version, make sure you click on this down arrow, because here it won't work for some reason. But you want to click on here, and you want to find out which one we're doing. So to find that out, we're going to go to our cluster in Databricks. We're going to click on the cluster. And if you see this Databricks runtime version, we're going to see 6.5 Apache Spark, right, in this section here. So 2.4, 2.11 Scala. So I'm going to go back here, and the version, again, click that down arrow. You want to do 6.5, and you want to find that version. So we're right there, right? All right, our cluster node type, again, click this down arrow. It's going to be, oh, sorry, we're on the wrong one here. That's the machine learning one. So it's going to be on the 6.5 and this one, not the machine learning, the regular one. And then when you go to your cluster node, it's going to be this one. And to make sure you have the correct one again in Databricks, it's going to be this one here, the standard DS3 V2, this worker type. And you'll be able to see it right here to make sure that's right. And again, our Python version is actually Python 3. So make sure you fix that. This is the amount of workers that you want. We can keep this at 1, but again, you can auto scale if you have bigger projects you're working on, or make, put 2 or however many workers, you need to on there. All right. So once you do that, we're going to hit create. Okay, now to manage any of your link services, you're going to go and click on this manage here in the far left. Right, so this is your home page, your author and monitor page. This is your actual monitor page. This is your author page, the monitor page where you monitor the pipelines that you run. And this is the manage page. This manages all of our linked services. So if you see, we just created that Databricks 24, so you can click on that. And if you go on this bottom right here under this test connection, we can click on that and make sure the connection is successful. So access token worked, everything worked to their cluster version, and we can do it. So that's perfect. So that's all. So our Databricks is set up there. Now the next thing we want to set up is we want to link our Azure Data Lake storage account, because again, we're taking data from there, that clean data, and loading it into the Azure SQL Database in one of our steps. So to do that, again, we can go and do another a little thing here, or, oh, I'm sorry, we haven't finished Databricks, I'm sorry. So once we connect here, you can again test this connection to make sure it works. Then you want to go into settings here. You want to do the notebook path. So the notebook path is just whatever notebook we're using, right? So in our setup, we have our notebook 11 that we created, and that has our Python script that's going to load and clean all the data for us. So you want to use notebook 11. So you can click on this browse and go to shared here or go to users. You can click on email here, whichever one's going to bring it up, then click on this notebook 11. So that's the notebook we want to use, right? You can open it here, so it's pretty nice. Okay, so that now sets up our Databricks notebook. All right, and Databricks links. Okay, so that's all set up here. Now we're connected to our notebook 11. We're connected to Databricks. Everything's all set. Now, you can also click on this Manage tab here, and we can create a new linked service doing this. You can click on this new button here. So the next one we want to do is we want to link to our Azure Data Lake storage account. So you want to go and search. You can search up here, or you can just click on this here and click Continue. All right, and we'll create this, Azure Storage 3. Same thing, authentication method. You can keep it. If you're doing a service principal, you can do that. We're just going to keep it the same here. From Azure subscription, again, you'd pick your subscription that you did, storage account, and ours again, if you look here, it's that Data Lake NJL7. Okay, so you want to make sure you pick that one. Okay, then we can click this test connection here. So it connected successfully. So once it did that, then we hit this create button here. Okay. And so it's been saved. And if you look on our Manage tab, it'll be on here right here, this Azure Data Lake Storage 3. All right, the last thing we want to do is we want to connect to our Azure SQL Database, but we actually don't have one yet. So we have to create one. That's going to load that clean data into that Azure SQL Database at the end here. So what you can do is once you're back here, you can click back home, and you're going to create a resource. And you want to go to SQL Database and click on that right here. Okay, same thing. You can do a new group. You can do whatever you want. And you're going to type in a database name. Again, database, NJL. All right, just make sure that it's unique in Azure, and then you're going to then you're going to have a server here. And if you don't have a server set up, you're actually going to create a new one. And what a server is it kind of manages the people who can access your databases. So if you create more than one database on a server, or even just one, so it manages the firewall, which blocks people from trying to access your database who don't have authority to or authorization to. So it's really, really, really useful and something you have to have. So I already have one set up here, but just to show you, I'll create a new one. We can do just server, new, again, doesn't matter, create anything you want to, whatever you're going to remember. All right, and your login, and then you can create whatever kind of login you want. So you can do, tennis, okay, you can do this, and you create any kind of password you want. Just make sure that all the green marks check here. Okay. Again, you can keep the location the same. You can change it however you need to. Or click OK here. And then, this is very, very important. On this compute and storage option here, you want to click on this configure database. Okay, so this is the processing power, the number of processing units that will help run your database. So whenever you run a SQL query, how many kind of processing units do you want to help you do that? Now, the default here is on what's called vCores. That just stands for virtual cores, and it's a way that you can figure out how many vCores you want, how many kind of units of processing power you want, and what your max database size is, right? So if you increase here, it'll get more costly, right? And same thing. But even if the default here, if you see it's $380 is the estimated cost per month, that's really high. And we're not trying to do that here. We're just using a small kind of database, really small setup here. And so what you want to do is click for this, look for basic, standard, or premium. This allows you to do kind of a prepackaged model called Database Transaction Unit, or DTU. And this is where you can kind of scale your different packages. And if you see, it'll give you different options about different, DTUs you can use and how much size you want. So if you go to the lowest package here, right, and again, the data doesn't matter, it's going to keep it the same. You see this is only $15 a month. So this is a lot more useful for us and then costs us a lot less. Again, if you're using the Azure free $200, you can still use that, and you'll use that for this anyway. It's perfectly fine. So we'll use this, and we'll hit apply. So now you see it's 10 DTUs, again, database transaction unit, and 250 gigabytes of storage for our database. Okay? You hit review and then create. Since I already have it set up, I won't do this, but go ahead and hit that. And then again, search for your, now the next step is you want to configure your SQL Server. So I'll show you what I mean here. So you want to search for your SQL Server up here or on all the resources, anything like that, whatever your SQL Server name was. So mine was here, is SQL Server NJL. Now when you click on this, this is extremely important, okay? The SQL Server, again, allows different computers you could think of to access your databases, and you can set up who you want to be able to access your databases, okay? So one thing you need to do, you need to click on this Firewall and Virtual Network. And I'm not going to click on it because I'm going to have my IP address in there. I don't want everyone to see that. But I'll show you what it's going to look like. So when you click on there, you'll see a bunch of things on the left here. But the most important thing is you only have to click on two things. You have to click on this Add Client IP. And what IP means just means Internet Protocol. So you can think of it as a way to handle the connection between a device and a destination site. So it uniquely identifies a device on the internet. So for instance, if my friend John has a website and I want to access his website, my local computer has an IP address, right? Its own unique IP address. So John can say, hey, I want Nick's computer to be able to access my website. So you can add on that IP into what's called the firewall to allow me to do that. So all you want to do is you want to add your own IP address on there. And you'll see your IP address listed down here. So all you got to do is click on this Add Client IP, and it'll add your IP address on there. And you also want to click on this Allow Azure Services and Resources to access this server. You want to click on Yes. Okay, it's defaulted to no, but you want to make sure you click on Yes. This will allow Data Factory to use this. This will allow other Azure resources to access this server. All right, so once you do that, you can just hit Save. You can get out of that. Now, let's go and search for your database. So go ahead and search for your database. You'll see something like this. And now what we want to do is we want to load in data, the clean data, into the Azure SQL Database from the Data Lake storage account. And so how we're going to do that is if you see here on our original data, we have 4 columns, right? So you want to create a database with these 4 columns and then just load in the data. So if every week we get new data coming in, we want to load it. We want to load it into the data storage lake, clean it, transform it, load it back, and then that clean data gets uploaded back into there. So you want to create a table. And how you do that is you click on this query editor here. You want to type in that password that you made. Remember in the original when you're doing your SQL Server? Again, this is the SQL Server authentication. This is saying, okay, you have access to be able to do this. Okay, you want to log in there. All right, and then here's kind of your query editor. So you can see what kind of tables you have, what kind of views. If you click here, right, we don't have any views. Well, you have one view here. Any stored procedures that you created, anything like that. So here, we're just going to create a table. And I've already kind of made this here. Okay, just going to copy this here. And again, all this is doing is creating a table called Data3. And you have these 4 columns, right, just like the 4 columns here. And so like this one is varchar for, variable. characters. This is integer. So like that, and then we'll run this. Whoops. All right, and we'll create the table here. All right, so now the table is created, and then if we want to run this, we can say select all from data 3. Okay, and run this, and you'll see that there's the 4 columns here. So now we can load in data effectively. And now we want to go back to our data factory, and now we want to link that database. So again, you can go to your Manage tab here, click on New, and now we want to go to SQL Database. So this Azure SQL Database here. Click Continue. Same thing, you can name this whatever you'd like. Again, subscription, type in your subscription there. Server name, it'll pull it for you. Database, we want to use that new database, whatever database name that you created, right? We want to link it to that. You can keep this on SQL authentication. Username, right, whatever username you used, and then whatever password you used again, whenever you created your server. So, okay. All right, and again, you want to test your connection, succeeded, and then create. Okay, and now if you see, Azure SQL Database 1 has been created. Right, so that's right here. So if you want to click on it, you can see it here. All right, so this wraps up the first part of this video. So now we linked the Databricks, we linked the data lake storage, we linked the Azure SQL Database, and we created a data factory account and linked it to all those places. In the next video, we're going to actually build our pipeline steps. So we're actually going to start and configure how to build these pipeline steps and see it actually run and see what it does. So thank you for your time. Follow me in the next video, and we're going to actually configure this thing and show you some cool things how to do it. All right, thanks again.